students of the SLW-646, if I am not be mistaken, Karibu Sana to my class. And if you happen to see the syllabus, we made the institutional issues of the international dispute settlement system, and where jurisdiction comes over here. See, hierarchy, harmonization, coordination, jurisdiction, privilege and immunities. And today class that we are going to do the jurisdictional aspect of it. Jurisdictional immunity of the regional organization, how it would be there. Of course, I will post to you this once my class is over, and this is running into the how many pages I will show you. This is running to the 30 pages is there. But in 30 pages, we cannot deal each and every aspect. We deal how the immunity would be there in the regional offices, how we can be useful for our study. That much we can take it out. And that is the reason I will jump from one place to another place, then I can explain you. Is it clear?
Yes, Prof.
Yes. Now, let me see how he made it. Regional organizations are usually not the most popular ones in the study of international organizations. When you want to study the international organizations, we come across the international disputes. At that instance, regional organization also plays some role, definitely. If not, it becomes a difficult task, and the ICJ will not deal the cases. Are you following me?
Yes, Prof.
International criminal justice, criminal court also will not deal the cases, because these cases are based on the contract, based on the property. So that is the regional organization definitely will one way in another way will make the efforts. So they are by definition not so relevant for everyone, and are often pursued as being quite limited in their objectives and substantive scope. So substantive scope would be there. They will deal those things only. Can these regional organizations, in the especially international settlement of the disputes are concerned, can the WHO plays any role? World Health Organization? Answer is no, in one way. But if it deals about the health issues are concerned, then it may interfere. But in the trade, it's the WTO will interfere. Am I right? Participants, are you hearing me?
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
But I will get the answer. Otherwise, I don't know whether you are there or not. So, some like NATO. What is NATO?
North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Yes, that is the reason the Ukraine and Russia.
Russia.
Yeah. So the EU, European Union, Arab League, OPEC. What is OPEC? OPEC, these countries are, oil producing economic countries, economic zone, something. Okay, let me check it. What is OPEC now? See, OPEC countries are there, oil producing countries. Yes, read. What is OPEC? Read what is OPEC. Participants.
Organization of the petroleum exporting countries.
Yes, is the organization of the petroleum exporting countries and the European Union, and these are all the people who will participate in the our lecture. Because you tell me why? Because these are all the people who do the business. When they do the business, naturally there will be disputes. Am I right?
Yes, Prof.
When there is a disputes, it becomes the international disputes because the different countries will participate in it. So that is the reason OPEC and can regularly find themselves referred to in a global newspaper, but fair share of them live their lives in a relative anonymity. Now, what I want to say is, when you want to read this regional organization, definitely there is some immunity would be there, like the court. If a judge has given a judgment, can you file a case against the judge? Answer is no. Can you file a case against the judge if he given the capital punishment to you? Participants, you have to speak, otherwise I cannot move.
No, Prof.
But when you don't speak, I cannot move, I told you already. And I made all these three stanzas. I don't know whether you remember those stanzas or not. My tongue is tied, my hands are handcuffed, my legs are fettered. So, why I am giving this means the lack of attention from institutional legal scholars does not do justice to the fair reaching of sometimes integrative objective of many regional organizations, nor for the fact that they are simply far more regional organization than the well-known universal one. And in the short, we also dealt the regional organization under the UN Charter. So here the regional organizations are usually defined as a international organizations, the membership of which is limited to states in certain global region. The regional character is often reflected in the name of the organization as exemplified by the African Union, the Organization of the American States and the Caribbean Community, the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations, the Mercado Community de Sir, and the Arab League. See, these are all the regional organization. In the Arab world, it's the Arab League. In the African, who will lead? In the African, who will lead in African? African Union, say. Say African Union. Participants.
African Union.
But why you are not saying? If you say means you are with me. And in the organization
There
of
is
the
a
American
delay, there is a
states,
delay,
in the America, and the Caribbean community, Caribbean, and the Southeast Asia means India, other countries, there is a association of the Southeast Asian nations, and Mercado, it is in the, especially the French speaking people, and the Arab League, the petroleum exporting countries and Arab people, or the European Union. In the Europe, the European Union. So these are all the regional organization, and these organizations will resolve the issues if any international dispute arises in this region. If a dispute arises in the Africa, where you have to approach? African Union. If it is a separate court is there to deal such an issue, then that court will resolve it. Can the Arusha court will resolve it? Participants, can the Arusha court will resolve it? Give the answer. Say pass on if you don't know.
No, sir. No, sir.
Why? Why? I say why?
Because it is adjudicating.
It is a human rights that is Arusha is. And what we are dealing is
Yes, Prof.
trade and commerce.
Yes, exactly.
So it is different. That is the human rights and this is, of course the body may be separate because the African Union will definitely will make, if any organization should be there on the directives of the WTO, they made some tribunals and the tribunals will resolve these issues. So in a sense, regional organizations are special type of the closed organizations because it cannot deal all the cases. It will be those cases which are related to it where it is formed. So as opposed to the universal organization. So a universal organization in the sense like the ICJ. So ICJ will deal only among the states issues. And the International Criminal Court deals the criminal offences only. Either of the state or individual with the state. Is it clear? Say yes.
Yes, Prof.
So now, here if you go further, other closed organizations have been limited their membership on the basis of the special characteristics of the states, such as their involvement in the production and export of the oil. Suppose the organization is there, where the OPEC is there, oil producing countries are there, they'll make anything. If any disputes comes in the international level, they do have their own tribunal. Like Arab League is there, the Arab League will make a separate body of it and the issue will be resolved in the Arab League. And certain level of the economic development, that is OECD, it is not always easy to clearly define a region, and a legal as well as the political reasons may play a role in the membership decisions. See, when you becomes a membership decisions, naturally there is a political reasoning is there. And some definitely in one way, in another way, the political influence will play over there. So the Organization of the Security and Cooperation in the Europe, that is the OSCE, Organization of the Security and the Cooperative in Europe, does not merely cover the Europe, but the entire northern hemisphere, and can usually hardly be seen in the regional. European Union membership is open to the as European states. So certain organizations regional, even though they are limited, but they can entirely deal the cases. For the European states, European Union is there, and they can make a tribunal or a court to resolve such issues. But the treaty falls short in defining the Europe. Similarly, issues have been arising in the framework of the Council of the Europe when decisions had to be taken on the membership of the application by the American or Azerbaijan and the Georgia. So who are the members there? And in that region, they should be members of that country. Because Asian country will not come into the Arab League, nor Arab League will go to the OPEC countries, or they go to the European Union, because the jurisdiction will be there, the regional offices will deal such cases. So in a similar vein, and the spirit, despite the international political debate on the definition of element, the Arab League is open to any independent Arab state. The sub-regional matter of the Central Africa, that is a CEMAC, is put into perspective by the openness of any African state that shares the ideals of the founding states and the Economic Cooperation Organization, that is the ECO, in Asia makes a membership dependent on their geographical locations and sharing the objectives. So now the question comes, if any disputes comes between the Arab League and the African Union, at that instance, how the dispute will be resolved? At that instant, they make a tribunal would be there, and the tribunal they will agree together if the parties, and the dispute can be resolved in the tribunal agreed by the parties. Before they are making any efforts or contract or any other means, they will definitely make such a provision is there which court is having a jurisdiction to entertain if there is any breach in the contract and what applicable law would be there, because the option is given to the parties to choose the law and choose the jurisdiction. Are you following me?
Yes, Prof.
Good. The purpose of the present chapter is not to analyze the nature of the regional organization as such. In the context of the present volume, it will merely focus on specific aspect of their jurisdictional immunity. What is the jurisdictional immunity would be there? That aspect you have to study. The number of the regional and sub-regional organization is quite high. It is not uncommon for the neighboring states to institutionalize their cooperation in a specific area. Over the past 20 years, so not only the number of the regional organizations has increased, but also their competencies. Day by day, the disputes are arising more because day by day, the cases will come out because of transactions, because of the liberalization and globalization, and more organizations have been granted with the competence in the field of the regulations and lawmaking bodies, and increasing the acts of the regional organization not only affect their member states but also the private persons and companies within these states. See, these states will make a contract with the private companies, make a contract with the government companies, and the many people from the many areas will participate in it. So leading to an increasing of the non-governmental interest in these organizations. Obviously, an increase in the impact of the international decisions on individual potentially leads to the more legal conflicts and claims, and hence need to have that are legally accessed. So while over the years many juridical dispute settlement mechanisms have been established within a regional organizations, like a domestic courts, and also still frequently ask the settle the dispute system. So these organizations they have their own bodies to resolve the issues, and the member state will definitely will appeal to the body, and these organizations have their a tribunal in the form of a court to resolve the issue in an amicable manner. So the immunity of the international organization, what the immunity they do have it? Yes, like a judge, they do have also the immunity. The international organization is more generally analyzed in a previous chapter of this handbook. The purpose of granting the immunity to the international organization is to allow them. Why immunity? To allow them to function independently from any interference by the domestic law of the host state or other state. Suppose the immunity is not given to a judge, can he give the capital punishment in the cases? Participants, if you know it, you tell me. If you don't know it, you say pass on. Or I will repeat the question.
Pass on.
Judicial Protection Act is, do you have such an act in Tanzania? Judicial Protection Act. The judges have been protected, and that the immunity is given to the judges. Yes?
We're not sure, Prof. We are not sure about it.
See, there is immunity would be there definitely. Every country will make it out. Even not only for the judges, even for the advocates also. Suppose if an advocate is arguing the case, can other opponent will kill him? Why do you take his case? He is our enemy.
No, sir.
There is the Advocates Act is there it will protect it. There is a body is there, a disciplinary action will be taken, like a Tanganyika Law Society is there in Tanzania, which will make the rules to protect the advocates also. If not, nobody will come forward to take the cases because of threat from the opposition party. So here immunity would be definitely will be there, and most regional organizations we see today were founded after the 1945 and were inspired by the granting the immunities in the United Nations. Even the United Nations give the immunity, underlining the functional need for the organization immunity to allow it to carry out its task. If such an immunity will not be given over there, they cannot work it either in any state because of the state laws or state powers, political parties, they may influence them. So underlying it. So the instruments of some regional organization reflect the general convention adopted by the UN, namely Convention on the Privilege and Immunity of the United Nations. See, with this, the privileges and immunities comes to a regional offices also, a regional areas or courts, or regional agencies, or regional institutions, and the conventions on the privilege and the immunities of the specialized agencies. So both the things are there. Conventions on the privilege and the immunities of the United Nations, number one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is convention on privileges and immunities on the specialized agencies, like WTO is a specialized agency, WHO is a specialized agency, and apart from these specific instruments, privileges and immunities may be dealt with in the headquarter of agreements concluded between the organization and the host state. Organization and the host state. The host state will host it, but there will not be any political interference would be there. And the law of the land, whether to be followed, not followed, depending upon the nature of the case. If they agreed together in the contract, need not to follow. If they did not agree, then the private international law comes into the picture, and it will deal it when there is no clear-cut jurisdiction as well as the applicable law is concerned. So jurisdictional immunity to prevent becoming a subject to or part of the legal process, and the concomitant immunity from the execution of an enforcement of measures can be seen as the key element of the immunity of the international organizations. So all international organizations, they will be supported by the special conventions, either the special agencies or by the United Nations special privileges regarding the conventions. While functional immunity is clearly linked to the exercise of a task and competence by the organization, the specific instruments adopted by the organization or the headquarters agreement concluded with the host state often go further by providing absolute immunity. In certain places, no, either absolute immunity will be given to the judges or the players, those who are disposing the cases. So these are international organizations also given absolute immunity for all the activities by the organization. This has made it increasingly difficult to sue international organization before a domestic court. Because of this immunity, you cannot file a case in the domestic court. Can you file a case, a domestic court, to the High Commissioner of India? Or any other Balozi? Please speak.
No, Prof.
Why?
Because it's not a settlement institution.
There is a immunity for them. They are not a common man, not a common subject.
Yes, Prof.
A privileges are given to them. You cannot sue him like suing a common man, even though the criminal case is against them. You have to obtain their government permission before suing him. Are you following me? Even a speaker
sir.
having the immunity, a president having the immunity, judges having the immunity, police department having the certain immunity, but not the high-handedness. Are you following me? So
Yes, sir.
these are the immunity powers are given. They cannot sue as like a common man. Even a government servant, you want to sue. Earlier there was a fiat is there in the Government Proceedings Act, but the fiat they remove it. That's why they changed the section 6 of the government what is that act? Government Proceeding Act. Are you following me? Now only the
Prof,
3
we are
months
following.
notice should be given. If the notice is given enough, either they give the reply or not, you can sue a government servant also. So this has been made it increasingly difficult to an international organization before a domestic court because they try to sue it. Hence, the immunity will be given to the international organization, those who are dealing such a international arbitration or international dispute settlement resolutions. So the same holds true for the top officials of international organizations. Lower officials would usually enjoy the immunity for their official task only. So all the people, those who are in the high level, definitely there would be some immunity would be there. You cannot sue like a common man because the immunity is given to them. So the need for the immunities of the international organization also depends on the extent which they can act separately from their member states. How far the immunity should be given over there. Suppose a Balaji in Tanzania cannot kill a subject of a Tanzania because if anything is done by the local people to the Balozi, a foreigner, he will bring to the notice of the police, but he should not supposed to take the law into their hand and kill the other person. Is it clear?
Yes, Prof.
Even a local man cannot take the law into his own hand. He should approach to the state. The state comes to the rescue. So while these days the legal personality of international organization is hardly subject to debate and should be in fact seen as a part of their organizational hood, the extent to which the states have actually transferred competence to the organization shall varies considerably. In that sense, immunity may be more relevant for organization showing a large amount of the integration and perhaps less for the organization and merely aiming to facilitate the cooperation between the states. If there is no such an immunity will not be given over there, they cannot deal the cases in a fair manner. So in the end, the act should be attributable to the organization and proceeding must first be aimed at the organization for the immunities to kick in. So if these immunities are not there, then other aspects will kick them and they cannot act fairly. And there is the question of whether when an institutional cooperation between the state actually leads to the creation of an international organization is at the core of the study of the law of international organizations. Sometimes the term soft organization is used to point the institutional framework or even entities that don't fit the traditional definition of the international organizations. For instance, because of the absence of the constitutive treaty, the perhaps best known example of the Europe is the OSCE, but the phenomenon is particularly popular in Asia, as illustrated by the Asian, which like the OSCE gradually evolved towards a hard organization as well as a number of the smaller soft organizations. So each regional there would be some institutions, some agencies which will take care of the parties to the organization to resolve the international dispute in amicable way and a peaceful settlement way. So that is the whole idea of it. So it gradually evolved towards a hard organization as well as a member of the smaller soft organization. On the other hand, if the spectrum we find very well developed regional organizations aimed at the integration of certain policy areas of their member state, sometimes referred as the supranational or organizations. So now the question comes over there. It depends upon the states, those who are parties to it, to keep whatever the immunity should be given to them, or special entity should be given to them, or the supernatural power should be given to the such an organization. Although this term too is often more confusing than helpful, the European Union is usually seen as the best example for the type of organization, but the example was followed by many other organizations in their region. So European Union, they try to resolve if any international dispute because they do have the international tribunals either in the trade and commerce or in other means also. Thus, Latin America has an Andrian community, that is the CAN. In Africa, we can find the Central African Economic and Monetary Community, and this organization will take care of in the Africa. There is the Central African Economic and Monetary Community is there, and they will take care of the matters which refers to the African. The Law Union, that is the Economico and Montreal, of course, is the French one. Omebukwa, and the East African Community is also there, and they will also make such a thing to be resolved. And the Caribbean region also their organization, and Eastern Caribbean state OECS also there. They also take an action to see that if any disputes comes to them, and they will be resolved by following the norms of the international treaties or international privileges and immunities, either by the Security Council or through the specialized agencies. Indeed, these organizations, among others, are said to have been based on the ideas and rules that laid on the basis of the current European Union, and their dispute settlement mechanism reveal similarities in the elaborate system of the EU. So the main question tackled in this chapter is how and in which form regional organizations have regulated their immunities as well as the immunities of their staff and the representative of their member states. Also, if there is some uniformity in the substantial rule as well as in the instrumental used. So not only the only judges are the people, even the supporting staff also. And it is there some uniformity in the substantial rules as well as the instrument used. Do some specific situations stands out there? Yes. And to what extent is the difference in the nature of the regional organization reflected in the rules of the immunities? So the immunity is given to these people, those who are tackling the issues of the disputes, including the office staff or the supporting staff. They will also be to be protected. So do some specific situations stands out, and to what extent is the difference of the nature of the regional organization reflected in the rules on immunities? Yes, every organization, they do have their immunities depending upon that region where it is formed over there. By following the international instruments either of the Security Council or from the specialized agencies. Given in the proliferation of the regional organizations, means the outgrowth of the mushroom growth of the regional organizations, and reflected in the rules or immunities, then over the past decades, in combination with the limited space availability, and we will analyze the arrangement of the number of the key regional organizations only with some excursions of the specific smaller organization also to form and deal in our study. So it will be an organization with a general rather than the specific competence. So either you can approach the general organization or you can approach the specific organization. We are dealing with the special type of the cases, largely leaving out organizations such as the Asia Pacific Fishery Commission. Of course, this is about the fishery, and Inter-African Coffee Organization. Of course, in the mostly there is the coffee is there. If any dispute of the regarding the export and import of the coffee, then that region will take care of it in such a manner if there is a dispute arises. In Pan American Health Organization is there, and the European Patent Office is there. If the patents matters comes. Finally, the scope of the chapter does not allow the analyze the domestic case law related to the immunities of the regional organizations. So here, domestic law will not be used over there, but the international instrument should be used over there to get the immunities. So the case law related to the immunities of the regional organization, apart from the occasional example, while writing this chapter, it becomes clear that specific documents such as the protocols, privileges, international instruments, immunities, headquarters, agreements, specialized agencies, even a constitutive documents and organizations will taken together to see how the immunities will be given to the staff, or the members, or the community, or the people, or the supporting staff for such an agency to resolve the disputes in amicable way, and where the dispute arises between the agreed parties, agreed states. So public domain and difficult to retrieve it. This contribution is therefore written under the caveat that the analysis, of course, caveat means let the buyer beware of it, or a notice should be given to them before you are asking anything. So from the complete and merely aims to serve as the first inquiry into the way of regional international organizations have regulated to their immunities. So each organization having their own special or a general immunity would be there. Would they take it from the protocols, treaties, charters of the special agencies, or the Security Council charters? So this way they can make it out how the disputes will. Of course, here you are given the African and Middle East, how it is there, but we throw light only in the Africa. We petroleum exporting country, they do have the Arab League will take their own case. So we need not worry, but only the African we will see it, and sub-regional and what are the things are there, we'll pick out some of them and we'll discuss perhaps in the next class. But meanwhile, I will post this. We need not do the America because they do their own cases, but general structure we can make it out. In Pan America, how the cases will be there and where it will be resolved. So a bird's eye view we can make it out. Like we studied in the international human rights law regarding the bird's eye view of these, the three regional headquarters where the cases will be dealt. Like Strasbourg in France and Washington DC in the Pan American, and when you come to the African countries, then Arusha. Are you
So I spend a lot of time working on social media for my clients. I create a lot of video content